chug, 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 chug.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wizard Staff. I am your host, Blake.
And I'm Guy.
And we are two drunk novices who like to talk about EDH. We drink and swear, so you've been warned. Please drink responsibly when you're playing children's card games. Tonight, we'll be talking in a shorter episode today in an effort to get more content out to you guys. We're trying out slightly shorter episodes called pre-games. So this pre-game, we're going to be talking, we're kind of in a more reflective mood. It's like at the end of the year where, when you're trying to contemplate your life and all the mistakes you've ever made and just cringing really hard. Today, we're going to be talking about growing as Commander players, like specifically how Guy and I, like looking back, how we've changed as Commander players since we first started this game. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, this is the first full year this is my second full year. I started playing right around August 2017. And so last year was my first full year as playing EDH. This is the first full year, I guess, that we've been doing a podcast. And I feel like that's also
an achievement.
It's a huge achievement, but it's also, it adds to kind of our resume as Magic players. Because you think about it a lot more, and you're almost, be honest, Blake, but would you say that you think about Magic almost every day, if not like...
Oh, yes.
At least once every hour?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, besides for running, it's probably like my main hobby.
Right, so...
I think about it daily. Well, this is like, I know last year in your set review, you were saying how, you didn't necessarily pay attention to, all of the sets. I think it was, Rivals of Ixalan that you, truly started, paying attention to, every single set and every single product that came out. So this is, your first, this is, your first full year of, paying attention to every single set, every single product, every single card, every single reprint, everything.
Well, yeah, that's definitely also because of the podcast.
It's a vicious cycle, feeds back on itself.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, yeah, I'll just kind of kick this one off. When I'm thinking about when I first started back as Commander player, when I knew absolutely jack shit nothing, I am pretty impressed, with how far I've come and probably how far we've both come. I think I've had just a little bit more time than you, Guy. We're both making progress. One of the things that stands out to me is our deck building skills. At least for me personally, I felt like I was pretty good, at least from the beginning. When it comes to ratios of cards, I pretty much jammed in 40 basic lands, and I included a couple ramp, a couple draw spells, some removal, some protection. I didn't really include any recursion, so I didn't really think that far ahead. But I had my one or two win cons. They were really shitty win cons, but they were there. My tutors, I was first starting into the game, so I didn't have the best tutors. I didn't have Vampiric Tutor or Demonic Tutor at the time. I only have them now because I've been playing for so many years, and I'm more invested financially in this game now. I have the tutor. I was running the tutor that was 2 black and 2 generic, and I'm this is the most powerful card in my deck. This is so good, and I'm just
Diabolic Tutor.
Yes, thank you. And I'm just oh, how times have changed. Still pretty decent card.
Yeah.
If you're on a budget.
For sure. For me, I feel that I've been getting a better perspective of what I want to do with my decks, which gives me a more clear objective to how I will pick my cards. I feel there's a balance of picking the cards of what I want and what fits into that theme, and I just need to find the true balance of what are the cards that I want for the theme and what are the cards that you might consider staples.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, in my Perforos deck, I feel it's pretty finely tuned to what it wants to do. For burn damage. It has a bunch of creatures that will act as secondary effects, which only helps Perforos trigger his ability. But sometimes I've been running into situations where I'm like, damn, I really wish I had Chaos Warp. Or the other night when I was playing, I was like, ooh, Jesse, one of my friends, asked and said, so you run Blasphemous Act in this deck? And I was like, no, I don't. And actually, that card would be really good right now. So I think for me, I have understood, I guess, a little more about deck building, but I just want to be able to really fine tune the balance of what cards I want to run and versus
what cards you need to run.
Yes.
Okay. How do you feel like since you like started, like you're kind of like me, where like you had the right ratio of like certain types of cards that you wanted? Or did you like jam in like 60 basics when you first started and now you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that? Is there anything like that?
Well, I think the difference between you and me is that I started with a precon, which was built for me.
Yeah.
So that kind of gave me the sense of what a deck should already have. I think one of my goals for next year is, even if I don't plan to buy more decks, I plan to build more decks. You've talked about how MTG Goldfish is a good tool for that. So I think that might be something that I do more often, is I look at a commander or a legendary creature or something that could be your commander, and I might just like build a deck, even if I don't plan to buy the physical copies, but just build it.
Like theory craft
just
it.
to be able to theory craft it so I can build more decks, which will just make you a better deck builder and kind of just give me a better idea of how can I improve the decks that I have. And if I do actually want to build like another physical deck, what do I need?
Right. One of the other points that I thought of in how I've changed for the better over the years is that like I just listen to a lot of other podcasts. These are podcasts that are just like strictly EDH Commander, or I think right now I currently listen to I think I listen to like about 10, and I'm caught up on all of them. Each of them have their own like history and backlog of like at least 50 episodes or something. And so like so much of my life has been wasted or utilized, however you want to look at it. And
we like to think of it as utilized.
Yeah, hopefully. And so that's how I kind of...
Our parents might disagree with that, but...
And then, so I kind of started with that as my base of how I was trying to learn about Commander. And then after I kind of caught up on like a ton of those, then I listened to Drive to Work, and I'm like 1/3 of the way through Drive to Work. It's like a huge mountain to overcome. You've actually finished all of Drive to Work, and I'm like really jealous.
It seems like you and I are doing opposites, where I finished Drive to Work in its entirety. It's a Saturday, so 2 new episodes just came out, and I will probably listen to them on the following Monday while I'm at work. But I think now for me moving forward, what I really want to do is, what you're doing is try and get a bigger backlog of other EDH podcasts. I mean, I've listened to a majority of the Command Zone. I don't think I need to listen to every single one of their episodes from the past. I do think that it would be just good for me as a Magic player, as someone who makes Magic content, and just someone who appreciates the game, to listen to as much as I can. So I do envy the fact that you've kind of opened your library, whereas I've kind of like had a very narrow mindset of just listening to Drive to Work. I did start listening to EDH Recast.
That's a good one.
Starting to turn the wheels there, but it's not like that's so far. Build more decks and listen to more EDH podcasts. Those are my 2 goals so far for the 2020 year coming up.
Okay. I'll have to think about what my goals are for next year. I've always just been like, keep learning more, dumbass. And then I also, I think we both listen to like more general information, like lore videos. There's a couple of really good lore YouTubers, and then like more generic people who like make content around a whole variety of subjects. Like a good example would be like the professor. He makes videos of all different things relating to magic, and those are pretty well made, pretty interesting episodes usually. And just tidbits, random tidbits here and there that you're like, oh, that's cool, I didn't know that. And so another major point that I'd say that we both improved in is like threat assessment. When I first started, you're a new player, you have no sense of reference. You have no sense of, how powerful a card is, or like, oh, wow, that's going to be a problem in X number of turns. Like, I should probably get rid of that now. Or, I can leave that on the board. That's not like really a big threat to like myself. And maybe it's only a problem for one person, so it can stay on the board, Trying to figure out like when a deck like is like, it's going to win. Like, we need to kill this person or get rid of their board or do something to them. That's something I've learned. And that kind of comes with just experience and seeing all the different strategies that are out there. Like, you can kind of get a sense of like when they're gonna pop off and win. Another part of that is like, all right, when do I remove their commander? Like, some commanders are a lot more centric to the deck. Like, all the synergy of the 99 rely on the commander being out all the time versus like my commander can come out whenever I want it to. Like, this is really based around the 99 with like the commander as an extra value piece if I need it out there,
Right. The only way to learn all this though is to play a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And also make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done one of those two things. The latter, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, Guy. I actually have made it a practice with myself that if I make a mistake and then someone points it out to me, like, hey, you can't actually do that, like for rules reasons, or I realize like after the fact, I should have played this card instead of this card, like I don't take it back. Or like if I missed, like another good example would be a heuristic study trigger. If I missed it, I don't take it back, because that pain of like, I fucked up, like I fucked up so hard, I could have won, and I'm gonna beat myself up about it. And now the next time I play the deck, like I don't ever forget the heuristic study triggers. I don't ever forget like, I see this card, I'm not gonna make that same fucking mistake that cost me the game last time. I don't take back my mistakes. And because of that, I feel like it's made me a better player personally. What about you? Do you do that?
That is a very good way of looking at it, and I think will definitely like help. For me, when I was thinking of mistakes, it was more of the I played the wrong card at the wrong time kind of thing. That will definitely be something that I need to,
Get better
consider
at.
more.
Are you talking about about like sequencing? Like, I should have played this card before this one. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think I told you off the air, but I was playing some games with Perforos, and I would do a lot of damage, but it wouldn't kill anyone. And once someone's like, you just did 24 damage,
Should probably kill you
in one turn, to all of us, you need to die. And if my deck doesn't have like a great response to that, I either need to build a deck better, or I need to learn
when to pop off.
When to actually pop off, or not make myself seem like a huge threat, even though sometimes I'm not actually the threat. I guess I am if I can do so much damage, but yeah. So with each of these things, I'm just coming up with more goals for next year. So, first goal was build more decks. Second goal is listen to more EDH podcasts, EDH specifically. Mm-hmm. And now the other one is just play more games and try and broaden, I guess, my horizons with what decks I play against, or like who I play against. So and I think 2020 will be the year that you can do that more, just because of the flood of Commander products we're about to get. So looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. I think my goal for next year is to really start focusing on making 3-color decks. Up until now, I have only really been perfecting monocolor and 2-color decks, And I think it's time for me to kind of, step it up a bit and try to figure out 3-color decks. I'm currently in the process of it. And so that's really probably my main goal for next year.
Tuvasa, right?
Yep, Tuvasa, and just from there, probably try to keep expanding my horizons there. Yeah, getting back on track a bit. Another main thing in threat assessment is identifying combo pieces and strong synergy cards, like seeing them. You see a Sanguine Bond, and I think to myself, okay, that is a 2-card combo with Exquisite Blood. I need to get rid of this now or save instant speed removal for it for when they cast Exquisite Blood, so that they can't just win on the spot. Another example would be seeing the Planeswalker deck drop a Doubling Season. You're like, ooh, that cannot stick around at all. Otherwise, that's one of the key cards of their deck that it's centered around. This needs to go as soon as possible. Otherwise, we're probably all just dead.
Good card.
Yeah. Another main improvement over the years has been learning all the main strategies. I think I might be a little bit better at this right now than you are, Guy, but just
Oh, for sure.
you think so?
Yeah.
Just when I sit down to my pod and I look around and I see the commanders, I can pretty much with 95% accuracy at this point be all right, this is what this is probably a graveyard deck. This is probably a Voltron deck. This is probably a Pillowfort deck, or a Lands Matter deck, or tokens, or mill, or stacks. And I'm usually right because I've just finally gotten to the point where all right, I've kind of seen all the main stuff now. It's surprising if anything truly a main deck's overall strategy does something so completely out of left field that I don't see it coming. It's pretty rare these days.
For me, this part of I just need to learn more about this only comes with the other 3 goals that I've set for myself. So it would be, I guess, one of my weaknesses. I can give you kind of a general idea of what most commanders should be doing, but
yeah,
probably when those big cards come down where I'm I wouldn't be able to properly threat assess what are the top 3 cards in that specific deck.
Yeah,
for me that's kind of where I'm at, is just expanding upon more of what the different deck archetypes are, and that'll just come with the other 3 goals that I've set for myself.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard because sometimes people play I don't know, Atraxa, and then you're all right, is this Planeswalker Super Friends deck? Is this a +1/+1 counters deck? Is this just a general proliferate good stuff? Is this Infect? Is this fucking, I don't know, Angel Tribal? It could be anything. So sometimes it's really hard to know what it is. So I will give you some slack on that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Another point that we've both gotten better at over time is just understanding power level. When you first come into the game, you have no sense of reference of this Divination or Blue Sun Zenith, which one is better? I have no sense of scale. And that just kind of comes with time. I think one thing you will learn, at least we did, I think a lot of people still haven't really realized and truly understand what it means when I say fun is subjective, and that people are allowed to play strong cards, and you don't have to play with them. Those are just 2 ideas that I think a fair decent number of people can still learn.
To play off of that, or maybe devil's advocate, I would actually encourage anyone listening to play with people that maybe you don't play with, the people that are playing cards that maybe you don't like, where their fun is different from yours. If it really bothers you after 1 or 2 games, sure, get up, go somewhere else, I guess. But playing against the decks that you don't like can only give you opportunities to think of how can you improve your decks to kind of counteract those strategies that you find to have trouble with or just dislike. And I think that's just going to make anyone a better Magic player. I mean, personally, if I sat down with someone and they played I don't know. Like, I know Infect is very polarizing, but I have an Infect deck, and it wouldn't bother me, but if I did happen to have a grudge and someone played Infect, I would want to see what it does. I would want to see, like, what can I do to maybe, combat that as best as I can, because I want my decks to try and be as prepared for whatever
Anything
comes up. Yeah. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Literally 2 cents for anyone listening. Is just give it a shot. I mean, if it really bugs you, don't try and do anything that would cause a scene, I guess. Like, don't yell at them or say how shitty of a person they are for like playing something else, but just learn, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm drunk already.
This
is the pregame.
Okay, stay with me here. It definitely is like a balance. Like, it's sort of like the idea of like give someone the benefit of the doubt, like at least see their deck once. This is like more oriented towards new players, like, just like experience a deck, realize that some people want to play on like the higher power level, some people want to play on the lower power level of the format, some people want to play kind of more towards the middle, and all of those are valid. All of those are perfectly valid. It's all about, I've explained in like my other episodes of this podcast, it's really just about having the same expectations as the people across the table as you.
Right. In terms of power level.
Yeah, it's kind of like setting up your boundaries. Like, all right, I'm comfortable with this strategy, but I'm not comfortable with stacks, chaos, and extra turns. And, you just kind of have to be honest about it. And hopefully you're saying that after you've experienced all of those decks, you understand why someone likes playing those. And you're like, all right, I understand you like playing those. I don't like playing against them, though. So we'll just not play those. We'll just not play that together, and be mature adults about it.
Very well said.
It's hard.
Very well
It's
said.
hard, but like you just gotta try, man.
This is a children's card game, but we are going to act like adults,
Yeah, as childish as we are,
which is very.
So, kind of like our last point on the episode here, we're wrapping up now. Again, this is a shorter episode. We're trying to test out the waters. All of you guys seem to like them, a majority of you. So we're keeping doing that. The last card we have, or last point I have, is assessing cards better. Like I don't know about you, Guy, but like listening through all of our podcasts again, I think we've gotten better at evaluating cards. Like when they first are released, when we do our set reviews, like I noticed, like especially within the last year, like, oh, we get better at being able to be like, oh, that card is very powerful, that card is very weak, and we're getting better at assessing that, and we're getting better at, kind of tightening up our set reviews, where I know our first set reviews, we just talked about every single card ever. I'm guilty of talking about like things that I probably shouldn't have, like Supreme Phantom, because it was...
I think we're both guilty of that. I mean, I know I give you shit for that, but like, that was pretty memorable. There were definitely some cards...
I should not have talked about that card. It's not relevant at all to EDH.
Yeah, but we're getting better.
Yeah, I like to think so. Like, I distinctly remember that, like my first month of playing EDH, I was playing with my friend Dylan, and he countered my spell with Swan Song, and I was like, ha! What an idiot. Like, now I have a 2/2 flyer. He's gonna die. I used to think Swan Song was a bad card, and now I'm just like, years later, I'm just like, good God, I'm so naive. It's such a good card. It's good to stay humble.
This kind of goes into, well, one, assessing cards better in our podcast is very important because, we want to give the best content to our listeners, all 100 of you. But
love you.
I think also for just the cards that I put in my deck, I feel like I've been assessing them better, going back to like how I build decks, thinking about how they fit into a general theme. But it's also a somewhat good tip is just to think of like, is this card what is this card in its worst case scenario? And if the worst case scenario for you is still pretty good, then it's probably a good card to put in your deck. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents there. So, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, and I'm looking forward to like when, like we're looking back to in like 2 years, and we're just like, we were half decent, but like man, we were really wrong about some things. Like I listened to like some things that we've said in past episodes, and I'm just like, oh, this is so cringy, but like it's really important that like, you know, we still keep it available for people to hear, like, because hopefully like if they listen to everything, they'll realize there is a progression of like we're getting better. Like I think for me personally, that's what I kind of want this podcast to be, is almost like a record of like, wow, we have just like seeing the progress that we've made. And this isn't like necessarily specific to us. Like I'm sure if you ask any other like EDH podcast or even just any other like creator of any kind, they'll be like, oh yeah, my like early work was just so cringy and so bad, but like it's important to like, you know, own up to it. And like, you know, I think growth is a very important thing to acknowledge in your life and in a lot of things in general.
I would agree with that. And I think just moving forward, I always think that there will probably be those times where, you know, we could look back even like 3 years from now, 2 years later, and just, you know, maybe we cringed then because the times were different. But you know, as long as we're still improving about how we approach the cards that we assess, and, you know, as long as we're not putting Supreme Phantom into our set review, I think we'll be okay.
Oh, okay. I feel so hurt. All right, Guy, do you want to give them our plugs?
Right, because you don't know any of them, apparently. All right, so thank you very much for listening. We hope you enjoyed. You can find us at thewizardstaff101@gmail.com. We are on Twitter, wizardstaff101. There's no the there. We are on Spotify and iTunes.
And YouTube.
Leave us a comment. And YouTube, you're right. And we are going to be starting a Facebook page soon. I'm starting to set that up, but work has kind of gotten in the way of that a bit. But soon you'll be able to like us on Facebook, so check us out there too. We hope you had a great night. Thank you for listening, and peace out.